Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm glad you could join me today. I have a book review for you today. And actually not just one book, I'm actually reviewing 3 books. And I'll tell you more about those here in just a minute. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel and you're following me for regular content. Get your notifications if you are interested in getting those. And let's get right to this because I've got a lot to cover with these 3 books. So, the 3 books I'm going to talk about today are The Graveyard Book, Coraline, and Fortunately the Milk by Neil Gaiman. And these 3 came in a set. I was gifted these by one of the people I follow on Goodreads. They had this, giveaway club. You buy a book for somebody else, and other people can buy books for you and send them to you. It's kind of cool. And I'd had this on my list for a while. It's a 3-book set, and I believe they're the UK editions. But they all came together in this nice little slipcase set, and the artwork was just fantastic, and I'll show you more of that here in a little bit. But I'm like, I've got to have these editions. They are just absolutely gorgeous, and I'm so glad that I got them, and I get to review them for you. These books are very quick reads. I read The Graveyard Book in the span of 48 hours. No, 24 hours. In the span of 24 hours. And I read the other 2 books in less than that. I mean, they were such quick reads. So I highly recommend you pick these up. And let's get right to it. So, The Graveyard Book, we'll start with that one. And as you can see, look at this gorgeous cover, guys. I mean, just some of this artwork is amazing. It's kind of creepy and dark, but beautiful at the same time. Chris Riddell is the illustrator for these books, and I think he just did a fantastic job. He's worked with Neil Gaiman on other projects as well, and this is it just pops. And you know me, I love a good cover. And I think anybody loves a good cover. I mean, if you're really into books, especially fantasy books, one of the things you look for is the cover, right? So The Graveyard Book is about a boy named Nobody Owens. They nickname him Bod for short. And essentially what happened is Bod wandered out of the house because there was a man in their house, and the man killed his parents and his sibling, and he was planning to kill Bod as well, but Bod, being the little toddler that he was, toddled out of the house and down the road and into the nearby graveyard. And so, of course, the guy wants to finish the deed, and he goes hunting for the little boy, and he goes to the graveyard, but he can't find him anywhere. And so, once the guy has kind of given up and left, the ghosts in the graveyard who have been protecting Bod they probably put a glamour on him of some kind to keep him from being seen and hidden away from unwanted eyes. They start talking amongst themselves, and they're like, we don't know this boy's name, we don't know anything about him, and they end up naming him Nobody, or Bod for short. It's such a cute, whimsical book. A very dark premise in a way, but comically dark, if that makes sense. There is a living person who is kind of he's not really living, but he's not really dead either. And I don't want to spoil too much, but he's the caretaker of the graveyard of sorts, and he agrees to be a guardian for Bod and watch over him. And the this older couple, well, they're an older ghostly couple, Mr. and Mrs. Owens, end up quote unquote adopting Bod and being his parents, and he learns the ways of the graveyard, and he learns uh, how to set up a glamour so that he can hide himself from unwanted eyes, and he learns all the ins and outs of the graveyard and what not to do and where not to go, and how to get by in the world. And Silas, who is his guardian, the guy that I talked about, who is kind of an undead person, and he'll go shopping and bring back food and stuff for Bod, and he has another person he assigns to Bod when he has to be away on assignment, because Silas often goes away for various different reasons. And it's just so funny. The thing I love about Neil Gaiman's books is sometimes they are so absurd that it just captivates your mind. And I had a fantastic time reading this book. It was so much fun. I would read it again, and I would read it again. And it's going to be right up there with some of my favorite books. One thing that was kind of cool is there's a witch that is in the graveyard. She's in an unmarked grave because she's evil, right? So they weren't willing to give her a proper burial. And when I heard her real name, because she ends up telling Bod her real name, I'm like, that name sounds familiar. And I got to thinking, where have I heard that name before? And it turns out that she is part of a family of witches who show up in other Neil Gaiman books. I'm like, oh, I see what he's got going on here. A little bit of a multiverse type of thing. I see what's going on. But I won't say the name because you need to read the books for yourselves. But one of the other books that the family shows up in is Ocean at the End of the Lane, which of course you've heard me say happens to be my favorite book of all time. And I'm just gonna, I'll keep quiet. You're probably tired of hearing about that, but definitely pick up the Graveyard Book. It is a fantastic read. If you're looking for something light and colorful and just completely off the wall to break the monotony of some of the other books you've been reading, this is a fantastic choice. Okay, so let's move on to Coraline. And let me go back to the Graveyard Book really quick. You can see some of the artwork here in different places in the book. Just phenomenal artwork and everything like that. I love illustrated editions, so this was right up my alley. Okay, now we'll get to Coraline. Yes, I'm a little ADD tonight. Don't mind me. Just stick with me. Hear me out, okay? Coraline. Now, if you're not familiar with Coraline, I'm quite surprised because there was a very popular movie made several years ago by Tim Burton, who is just an absolute genius. If you've watched movies like Frankenweenie or The Nightmare Before Christmas or Corpse Bride, that is all Tim Burton stuff. Beetlejuice, is Tim Burton, and just brilliant movies, a brilliant mind. And you put him together with Neil Gaiman and you come up with the movie adaptation of Coraline. It was just a fantastic movie. And of course I did see the movie before I read the book. And so I've always wanted to read the book, and I'm so glad I did. And you can see how beautiful the artwork is on here. It is just phenomenal. It just pops, right? You've got the cat that follows Coraline around in the story, and they did a really good job in the movie of adapting the book. I was very surprised. There wasn't really much that was different in the movie that I remember anyway. I may have to rewatch the movie now that I've read the book, but I was really impressed. So the story of Coraline is about this girl named Coraline, of course, and everybody in the house building that she lives in keeps wanting to call her Caroline, and she's always correcting them. No, it's Coraline. And her parents have moved into this flat and brought her along with them. Of course, it used to belong to her grandmother, I think. And there's these really eccentric neighbors. There's a guy upstairs who trains mice to perform in this circus that he keeps talking about. And there's these two sisters who live alone together. They're well on in age, and they're just really different and unique. And they used to be performers. And Coraline is in this place that she doesn't really know. She doesn't really have any friends, and she keeps trying to interact with her parents, but her dad is too busy with work to really give her the time of day, and her mom is always kind of off in her own little world, and they just kind of leave Coraline to her own devices, and so she finds this door that doesn't seem to lead anywhere, but then one night she opens it and it leads somewhere, and it leads to this alternate universe where all of a sudden there's copies of her parents, but they have buttons for their eyes, and it's just really weird and it's really creepy. And they feed her this really good food, whereas she's always complaining that her mother's food is not good, or her father's food is not good when he cooks. But she goes over to this other side, and her other mother and her other father, they cook this really great food. They're paying all this attention to her, and it's these weird beings that are just kind of leeching off of her and taking advantage of her desire to be loved and to be nurtured. And she ends up going on this wild adventure to try and escape from her other parents. It's just it's a creepy and nightmarish and fun read. It really is. It's brilliant. So I think I like the book even better than the movie, but the movie is absolutely fantastic. I highly, highly recommend both of them. So make sure you check Coraline out. You've got these really creepy pictures. There's her other mother, and oh man, it is just an amazing read. So please check that out. And finally, is a kind of a little bit of a different book. It's a kid's book. I mean, it's obviously written for kids, but the way it's written, Neil Gaiman just has a way of writing that he could write anything, and you would find it interesting and engaging and just a thrill ride. I mean, he could write a grocery list for me, and I would have twice the fun grocery shopping that I normally do. I mean, that's how good his writing is. So there's this book called Fortunately the Milk, and it is just this weird, strange little story. I mean, this took me probably an hour to read at most, but it really simple language, lots of pictures. It's a kid's book, but man alive, it was so much fun to read. So the premise of the story is there's this family, and the mom is away on holiday. The dad's home playing Mr. Mom, and he realizes that he doesn't have enough milk in the house, so he runs off to the store to buy some milk, and for one reason or another, it just takes him forever to get home. And so by the time he gets home with the milk, the kids are like, "Where have you been all this time?" And he just starts concocting this wild, off-the-wall story, and about a whole bunch of different things. he ran into this alien spaceship who was wanting to basically take over Earth and assimilate everybody. But all of a sudden, he has this gallon of milk, and for some reason, the aliens are willing to let him go and get away because of the milk. And he ends up meeting this dinosaur who's an aeronaut, and he has this big scientific balloon, time traveling balloon, and they get into all these harebrained schemes and misadventures. And fortunately, he had the milk that allowed them to be saved from all these mishaps. It was just a wild ride. I was laughing the whole time. And, I don't normally read kids' books, but I will literally read anything by Neil Gaiman, and I'm so glad I read this book. It is great for kids. I think anybody would be happy that they got their kids to read this book. And it's great for adults. It's great for any age. I mean, hand it to your grandparents. They'll have fun with it. I just, okay. I'm done gushing. But I mean, as I said before, you can see some of the, that's a wampir. I think they called him a wampir, kind of like a vampire. And, just, he gets into all these weird misadventures. Oh wow, these books were fantastic. I easily give all of them a 4.5 out of 5. The Graveyard Book especially, I think I would give a 5 out of 5. That is just a fantastic read. But I was not disappointed in any of these books, and I think you would do well to read them too. So, that is the end of my long and strangely all over the place review about these books. But I hope you were entertained. I hope you had fun watching this video. Slap a like if you did. Make sure to stay tuned for my future videos. I am going to be doing a Kindle book haul next week, telling you all the books that I got on Kindle recently. And there will be much more to come in future weeks as well. So stay tuned and make sure that you are reading more books. I will talk to you next time, guys. Take care. Bye.